sit there and they want you to bask in their glory. They want you to bask in what they're like, hey, look at my pictures, you know, but you have to harden up because inside, you know, your family never sent you nothing and it's been 15 years.
So let me ask you a question. First time my brother went in, he went in for 3. Every month, one of us sent him something. Second time he went in for 7. Every month, one of us sent him something. The third time, none of us did. So do you think that's
right? No, that's a different thing. Now you have a repetitive situation.
Right.
You know, that's someone who should have learned, because while you're in there, the objective is to make your back strong and honorable and learn for from what it is that you experience. Now, for those who continue to keep hitting their head like that, you know, I wouldn't support him either if he was mine. And I keep telling you, don't do this, and you keep doing it. I shut him down as well. So you should already know how to hustle and bustle within the prison system if you're gonna be a repeat offender. You shouldn't even ask your family. I've never asked nothing. I never asked my mother for nothing. You know, my mother begged me to send me packages, but I never let my mother send. I never asked my mother for a dime while I was in prison my whole time.
And
so,
you know, one of the things that, if I remember correctly, you spent a lot of time in solitary, didn't you?
Yes.
Please explain that, because why was it that they made you spend so much time in solitary?
Well, because I was a bad actor.
Oh, okay,
so,
okay.
I mean, it took a long time for me to be able to learn how to program, because I went in wrongfully convicted, so I had a chip on my shoulder with authority. So I went in, you know, head first, you know, and so I racked up all this, you know, all these write-ups, all these different things. Every time something was happening, I'm the man that's gone, you know. And it wasn't until 5 years before my release that I was able, during my last shoot term, that I was able to look at that and see what's going on. That's how I was able to write the book, because I was trying to understand why it is that I keep going left instead of right. You know what I mean? How did I end up in prison? You know, so I had to go back and look at like what was going on, and that's how I ended up coming to this.
Did you go to college while you was in there?
No.
Okay.
I did some credits to college, but my whole focus, my whole prayers, everything that was there was about getting out of prison. Like, even though I needed to prove my innocence, so I took credit to things that they wanted me to, but my mind was trying. But that wasn't for me. What was for me was learning this law, learning what they can and cannot do to me, because I know that was the only way that I was going to make it out, because I was the one that was supposed to make it.
I never thought I was going to get out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you know how the system is, right? And like we were talking about before, you go up there and the guy pulls the card, reads off this crap, and because you're a cash cow.
Yes.
We all were.
Yeah.
And I worked as a plumber, right? All the time I was in prison, believe it or not. I had the same job, different joints, same job. I was good. I don't read, so I learned a skill that I could do without reading. You know, because plumbing is 80% common sense and 20% knowing the parts. And I'm not bragging, but I was good. And was in trouble all my life. Like I said, I started in juvenile hall and worked my way through the YA and then the prison in Alabama. And what would make these prisons seem like a party.
Right, but
so this is the thing. Because we've discussed this before about the fact that the prison system uses the labor, and they basically paroled him when he was no longer able. He got too old to do the plumbing.
I was in a wheelchair.
And they didn't even call it that.
Yeah, no.
But they didn't call it compassionate release for him, but they just let him out because they couldn't use his labor anymore. But I want to get back to something, because we have not discussed for the people listening. How did the gang life lead you into prison in the first place?
Well, soon after I began gang banging, I I advanced in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to be the best in what I was doing. You know, and so
you were the best at the bad.
I was best at
being bad.
You know,
right?
And so you know, I was myself was ambushed and shot 3 times in my chest, back, and arm at point blank range. In which the last words I heard was "fuck my neighborhood" or whatever.
Right.
You know, so and I thought that while I was sitting in that bed that, you know, maybe I would have the thoughts to, you know, change my life or whatever. But it only made me worser, you know, because all I knew then was
revenge.
I knew was revenge and protecting myself. So that enhanced me even more at that time, because, you know, I continued, you know, I stayed away maybe a month while I was healing,
right,
and went back in. And so when I was 18, a very dear homie of mine, big homie of mine, man, that was that came into my life at that point. Name was Daryl F. Rogers. You know, he at that time he was everything to me, you know, and so he ended up getting killed. So he ended up getting killed. I had just you know, started doing good in school after being shot and stuff like that. So I was trying to make it work because my mother was on me about the school situation. So I made sure that I was doing the school thing, and he was helping that out, stuff just like such as other older dudes that really had invested in me. They would keep me, you know, try to keep me on that path. But it was after that happening to him and seeing him the way I seen him, everything had hit my young mind at one time. From my sister to my being shot to seeing him there, it sort of like all compiled on me, and I dropped out of school and you know, went for what I knew. And before long, I was wanted for murder.
Okay, and you were in a situation. So in other words, because you mentioned that you were, when we talked before, you were there in the incident, but you did not commit the murder. So,
right.
But the bottom line is, from you being involved with that, with all of the things that were on your mind, all of the things that you felt you suffered, all of the things that you needed the revenge for, which was guiding you to do those things, you wound up in a situation which cost me
my life, you know, and that was a situation that was, to me, which is why I'm not, you know, going crazy about it, because to me it was more poetic justice.
Okay.
Because, you know, I was out
doing
there like
things,
that,
right.
and I was destroying my community.
Right.
I have to admit that, you know, and, you know, I was there, you know, and I got to experience police corruption at the same time, because, you know, we had an officer that got involved, and, you know, and that's how they ended up getting me.
Okay.
You know, so I had to leave that, go through that trial situation, and them painting this picture of me, and the fact that I didn't tell on my friends is the reason why I was singled out and had to go see what it is that I had to see. But that was God's doing, because I wasn't gonna stop doing what I was doing.
Right.
So I went, by the time I hit the prison yard at age 20, you know, it was a mission from God for me to see what it is I needed to see, because once I hit the prison yard, and my first incident hitting the prison yard, our rival gang members, you know, come to greet new arrivals, and I didn't shake their hand, you know, because you taught me this, like,
right.
So how is this going on? You know, when I first got there, one of my older homies was in the cell with one of our arch rivals that you done bred me to do all these things to. So you're in the cell. So
and how is that possible?
So how is that
Absolutely.
possible?
How is that possible?
Coming around, greeting, how you doing, man? And I'm like, wait a minute, man.
Wait.
You know, you know.
And I need to, because I want the audience to understand this, that in prison, typically because things are divided by race, and black people, no matter what the gang is, they gotta click up. to survive in the prison.
Yes.
They got to click up. So all of this that's going on in the street is pitiful, it's pointless, and it doesn't mean anything.
No.
Because what winds up happening is they click up because there's not enough of them, and they're typically fighting the other people, and so all of the bluster and all of the hatred that is imbued in young minds about these rival gangs is a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit in terms of what the reality is when you have to go into the penitentiary. And this is why I'm sure it really blew your mind, and I'm sure that it was highly offensive to you, because here you are from a little kid, now mind you, you're a little kid, and then you get into it as a teenager, a preteen, teenager, and you get involved, and you think you live in the life. You think you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, only to find out, how are y'all buddies in here?
Yeah, so when they left, when, you know, our counterparts left our presence, you know, the situation turned to me, and I was told not to bring that into the prison system. We don't do that here. You know, so that was the biggest shock coming in, you know,
I'm sure.
that coming in. So, but it was all God's doing for me to be able to see that. And and although I still climbed the ranks in there and did what I was supposed to do in there, it was on a whole different level. And it wasn't until my last assault on another inmate with a weapon that I started to really understand that I went from this to this. Like, my mother, that's not who my mother raised. You know, you guys took me from here and you taught me all this violence right here, and then I come here and you're telling me to be violent towards here. And that's not me. And to see my victim come into the ad seg, the hope, something that I did with my hands, you know, what was another thing. And receiving that letter from my mama once she heard about what I've been doing. I had been doing stuff like that in there, but that one right there, you know, got to my mama, and my mama ended up reaching me in the shoe, and she like, that's not who I raised. What you do? You're never coming home. You're never coming home because, you know, because I used a weapon, you know.
And one of the things when you talked a minute ago about the fact that you felt it was poetic justice because honestly you had already been doing things that you had previously not been caught for.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't that you didn't deserve to be punished in your mind. You didn't feel like I don't deserve to be punished, but I didn't commit this crime. Right. And I'm gonna tell you this, and I see your hand up, I had to come to Cheryl first, but I'm gonna tell you this. I feel like the criminal justice system, if you don't catch them doing, you can't convict them on a crime that you think they committed somewhere else. You have to prove that they actually committed this crime, and oftentimes they don't do that. They will get a makeup crime or anything. And so what'll happen I'll tell you this way. I never felt any sympathy for O.J. Simpson because I felt like he went to jail for all the times he had whooped her butt before. When I sat and listened to the trial, there was no way I could have convicted him either based on what the forensic scientist was saying. When the forensic guy said, this blood, he was an Asian man, Henry Lee, foremost in the entire country in forensics. And he said that the blood stains of the victim's blood was on the same exact shape on both sides of the sock, which is an indication that it was put on there when nobody's foot was in the sock.
Wow.
He also accounted for all of the blood that was in the vial that was missing, where this is what you tested for, this is what you tested for, but this much extra is missing. And so how do I say to you beyond a reasonable doubt that they didn't put that blood there when this man is the most But I say that to say I didn't care whether he went to jail or not, because I feel like he had been whooping her behind, and he deserved some time for all the times he had whooped on that woman before. That was just my thinking about it. But at the same time, I feel like you need to be able to prove the crime that you have him in prison for, not what you think he did or not what's going on later. But I saw that you wanted to ask a question earlier.
I think for clarity's sake, would you please say what age you went in and how much time you ended up doing?
Well, I was arrested at 18. I hit the prison system on my 10 days before my 20th birthday. And I was released on my 45th birthday.
And that is an entire lifetime. That is an entire lifetime, yes.
You know, the biggest word in prison I hated was homeboy.
Why?
Because I don't believe in it. I never joined a gang. And when I went to Folsom in the 80s, there was no fist fights. It was all stabbings, you know. That's just where it was. You could bump into a guy, and if he didn't say, "Excuse me," one of you going to be dead before that day's over. But being raised by the state, I knew all this crap before I got there. But like I said, the biggest word I hated was homeboy, because homeboy always meant give me. Because I'm your homeboy. And I used to love it mostly because me being white, and the whites come up and say, "Hey, homeboy," and I tell them, "You from Compton?"
That was a big joke. But wait, so this is another thing. So after you are incarcerated, I'd like for you to talk to us about, number one, why did you entitle this book The Longest Wait? But I'd also, before you get to that, I'd like for you to talk about your mom, because I know that she, again, from the couple of chapters that I read, she was massive in your life, and she loved you, and I loved her nickname for you, which was so cute. But I want you to talk to me about her, and particularly, how did your incarceration affect her?
Oh, wow. I think my mother, it all that came to a head, so to speak, like because there was 3 signs that I had missed, that my mother, that I believe God was trying to get a hold of me through.
Okay.
You know, the first being that when I took a crew of my homies to Oklahoma and went to jail as a 15-year-old, trying to sell drugs in another state or whatever. And but she told me not to go, you know, and I went to jail, you know. So when I traced back to those 3 key things, which was when I got shot, she told me not to go down there. I went anyway. I got shot. When he got killed, she had heard about what I was doing in the streets, and she stopped me and told me, you know, you need to stop what you're doing. You know, Mama got a bad feeling, you know. And so eventually I was arrested and charged with these counts. And you know, she was there, you know, nobody else was in court. My homeboys wasn't in court for me. Nobody was in court for me but my mother. So, and she was there day in and day out. You know, she was, my mother was always knew what to do, and she was always pretty and sexy and stuff like that. So she always had those wows to get, you know. So she knew the watch commander at the police station. She knew everybody, you know. So and a lot of times she used to save me, you know. Which in that regard, I can think back and say, you know, if she would have left me in the juvenile hall, you know, maybe I would have thought different. I had those thoughts too, because she tried, you know, but she came and got me every time. The police, I never made it to juvenile because she knew who she knew, and she was showing up every time somebody told her that they had me. She was showing up. That's my boy. What y'all doing with him? You know, getting him out of there.
Yeah.
And every time. So this time, man, it was just her biggest battle. You know, it was her biggest battle. You know, and she sat back there behind me the whole time, and listened to, you know, the pictures that the monster picture that they was painting of her baby boy, you know. And I remember, yeah, you know, when they came back with the conviction, you know, the air just went out of us, you know. And you know, then when I was sentenced to life, you know, that I think that was it, you know. So 10 months after my conviction, she suffered a stroke, a debilitating stroke, and she wasn't never the same again. You know, her arm was paralyzed. So, and I was crushed at that time, severely crushed, man. I didn't, you know, and I believe it was at that point that I learned to start cutting off my feelings, because I remember my mother coming in there because I was crying. When first they had me isolated because I was in Supermax, I was in high power, so they had me isolated. So I was in there crying in the holding tank, and I heard the doors open. I could hear those clacks. My mother switching the other thing, clack, clack, clack. And, you know, she came. She stopped that crying. Stop that crying. You know, she told me that if she can trade places with me, she would. She said that, Mama, do the time. I'd do it for you. I'll do it for you. You know, but they not gonna let Mama do that. So you gotta make it back. You gotta make it back.
And thus the longest wait.
And that's the longest wait.
The longest wait.
She waited the longest.
Her waiting for you.
Yeah.
To come home.
Yeah, it was the longest wait.
And the thing is this. Mothers suffer. Mothers only know their babies, even when they understand that you're doing things in the street. They only know their babies. So the pain is excruciating. But there's one thing that you said more than one time that I have to address it. And that is when you cut off your feelings, and you did that to survive mentally.
Yes.
The problem is, how do you turn it back on? That's the problem. Because people don't realize they shut themselves off from feeling anything in an attempt to not feel the pain. The problem with that is there's two things that I know of for sure. One is when you shut off pain, you also shut off pleasure. There are two sides of the same coin. And so when you shut off, I know a friend, she never went to prison, but she had been hurt emotionally through relationships, and she decided that she wasn't going to feel any pain anymore, but she also at a point was never able to feel pleasure anymore either. And the challenge becomes turning it back on, so because now you're home, and now you need to live a regular life, and you're out here, and if you're not able to feel, there's so many people around here. So the question is, how do you do that at this point?
Well, I have that same problem. Like, there is no pleasure. Like, you know, I don't get pleasure out of it. You know, and you can't train yourself to feel pain again. Like, you know, so, but, you know, I think mine was further solidified because when my mother died, you know, 10 months after I came home, you know, I believe it's still in that back in me, you know. She wanted me to be, you know, she was trying, but, you know, it was her time. It was, you know, she had to go, you know, because she seen me come home. She knew that my son, who she had the whole time, he's all right now because I'm home.
Okay.
And so she did all she did what she, you know, it was time to go.
And she waited all of those years for you to come home.
Yeah. So those feelings is you know, being here, it's like I pray day in and day out, you know, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, you know, the same things while sealing my feelings, you know. So here, all I think about is trying to bring forth a new generation. So I don't get the worldly things that happen, you know. It's a double edge, right? Because, you know, you want to interact with people, but at the same time, you don't know how to feel something when they mad or something, or at you, whatever. You don't know how to do that. So it's a double edged sword. You know, I've had 3 failed marriages. You know what I mean? So. And being here.
Wait, let me ask you this: 3 failed marriages since you've been home?
No, in prison.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, ooh, you was busy. How?
Oh no, that was correct. That was while in prison.
Right.
But you know, but my third, you know, she was the best of all. She had did 8 years with me, and you know, and we still cool to this day. You know, she taught me a lot. When my mother died, she stepped in and she taught me how to live. Okay. She taught me a lot of the things that I didn't know. Now I left when I was 18, so I didn't know how to, you know, get my own place, make sure I got insurance, make sure. Yeah, I had to relearn all. I never learned it then because I was
right. So it wasn't even a relearn.
ID or nothing. I never had anything. So.
And that's important for people to understand. When people go into incarceration young, there's a lot of things they haven't experienced, and there are a lot of things that they don't know. Not to mention the fact, the least of which is that technology has changed so much in the past 20 years, 25 years, that even if you knew some things, so much of it has changed. Yeah. And there's a learning curve, but for people who are experiencing that, the key is to not feel ashamed that you don't know. The key is to not feel ashamed. Yes, sir.
When I first come out, I seen people talking, and I'm looking at them, and there ain't nobody around them, and I thought half of this damn place was nuts. Because they was using
the earpiece.
Yeah.
Talking with an earpiece on the phone. So they walking around looking like they got an earpiece in, walking around talking to themselves, and he's thinking they're crazy. Because he doesn't know anything about that. Right? And you wanted to say something. You had a question, ma'am?
Yes. Did any of your brothers ever go to prison?
Yes, I have a brother that's in prison right now. I actually seen my brother 17 years into my prison system, and I didn't even know how to embrace him as my brother. My son physically saw my brother, and I had to tell my brother that I apologize, man, that, you know, I'm not so enthused about seeing you as you are seeing me. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I asked him, like, man, it's been 17 years, why I couldn't get a letter or anything from you, like, you know. So I had to let him know, like, you know, I'm here with, you know, I'm here for you, you know, but I don't know how to interact with you. And we didn't interact. We didn't interact like that. I wouldn't talk to him here and there, but by this time I had already cut off any feelings of any feelings of missing. Like, I don't even know how to miss nothing or miss nobody. Like, so, you know, you have people, especially when you get into relationships and stuff like that, you know, your significant other wants you, you know, you miss me, and I don't even know how to answer because I never told him I miss you. You know, I don't know how to do that because
you never learned how to do it.
In my life, 2 years, 2, 3 years at max, and then they gone. So I didn't know.
In the 36 years I did in the last one, I had 3 friends. I still got the 3 friends out here. But you would think over that many years,
you would have more.
Now I have people I associate with, but somebody I can call a friend, somebody I can depend on, 3.
You got more than me, because right now it don't seem like I got none.
But this is why another reason why I wanted to form this group, because we have to find a way to help you get beyond that, because you deserve to feel and to be loved on and to be cared for and to be able to reciprocate that. You deserve that. The fact that you were in a gang, the fact that you were incarcerated does not relegate you to a third or lower class citizen that you should not have the love and you should not be able to share that kind of love. So my hope is, again, that we can heal from this kind of thing. I want us to be talking about how we heal these wounds, because those are wounds. The same wounds with your cousin, with her slit throat, yours are just kept not visible. People see you, they see a handsome man, they don't see all those wounds. But the wounds are deep.
Oh yeah.
The wounds are deep.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so how do we get you beyond that? What does it take? What are the mechanisms that you use that to help you get beyond that? There are certain things, for example,
Age.
Age may or may not do it. Age may or may not.
Well, I'm just saying it.
Right? It helped you. It helped you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but that's good to know that literally as you matured and as you got older.
I don't know about maturing. I'm just saying.
How do you feel when the time comes for somebody to just leave you alone, or somebody, is angry with you, or they don't like what you're doing? How do you?
You ready to tell them? I tell them piss off.
All right then. So
right.
you have no feelings about how they feel.
But wait, but that's not really true, because he loves me.
Yeah. And you're gonna cry at me, right?
And he has said that to me before. So I'm saying that to say that
I don't have that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what the point we're trying to make. And that's the point I'm making, that you said you cry if she leaves you.
But
I don't have that. I don't.
You know what?
I can't name one person that I'm a cry for.
But this
when
is
you,
what I want
you were
to
talking
understand.
about your mom.
That's the only person that ever made me cry.
My mother loved me, and like you were saying, when you were doing wrong, she didn't like what I was doing. But when I was out there, the only ones what was safe, and it's honest God truth, was family. Anybody else, I'd cap them in a heartbeat, and not think nothing about it. But family.
We're safe from your wrath.
Right. Safe from your wrath.
Well, whatever.
Whatever, from your behavior, whatever was going on, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing. Yes, go ahead.
So your feelings are not there for what? Because if you're doing outreach, you have feelings.
Well, I care about the people in my community.
Mm-hmm.
Like I care about, bringing forth a new generation. But that's all I seem to think about. So if I get into intimate friendships, relationships, whatever you want to call it, my mind don't think about the normal things that everybody's supposed to think about. Like, let's go out on a date, or let's, and so that in turn leads people to ask you questions or be mad at you or whatever. And in turn, I have no feelings about it. Like, because all I'm thinking about is the mission that I'm on, and I don't. So when somebody comes in and out, I guess I change when I see the future. Like my mission out here for me is to one, leave my kids an inheritance somehow. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I need to leave my kids and grandkids some type of inheritance that they're gonna have. Mm-hmm. And two is to leave a legacy out here that's worth mentioning, other than the one that I went to prison on.
Okay.
So those two things right there, it is the only thing that's been driving me since I stepped out here. So nothing else really. Like I don't like being in crowds. I don't like being around people. If I'm around somebody for more than 5 hours, I'm ready to get out of there, or I'm irritated. I'm not no fun to be around, because it's too much. It's too much togetherness. I spent at least 23 of 25 years of my life alone, so I'm severely used to that, and very much used to that. So I don't know how to really be comfortable with being with somebody all day long, all day night, all that. I don't know how to do all that.
So listen.
So it drives people crazy.
What I love about this, and I really love that question, because when you mention the fact that he does outreach, means that he still cares. There is still a caring person in there. What I would say, and I'm going to put this on my shoulders as my job as a facilitator and a helper and a healer, is to show you how to tap into that, because you do care. See, if you didn't care about anything, that's just so brilliant.
Yeah, because see, like right now, I care that nobody's caring about St. Andrews right now. So that's
right?
So
okay.
that's irritating me, because you know I everybody that's from my community that's in there, that's doing all this time, they long to come back and do what I'm doing for there. But here, you know, and it's not just there, it's the whole community, you know, and I sit back, and because I'm gonna do what I'm do, period. Watch and see. But it's just, you know, I know that it takes a community.
But let me ask you this, because there's another question that she asked you. There's another question that she asked you that I think is the most important question. Do you want to know how to care? Because that's a question, and listen, you may not even have an answer for that question sitting here right now, but that is a question you have to ask to know how. Because let me tell you what can happen. And it may be, I'm like this. This is one of my pet peeves. This is how I am. Okay, which is fine. But what you gonna do about that in terms of moving forward now? You have a right to stay whoever you are. You have a right to be that way. But if you want it to be different, I would say this, thinking about your grandchildren. Do you want them to know that you love them? Do you want to be able to share with them? Do you want them to be able to come see Pop and want to jump up in his arms and kiss him and hug him? Oh yeah, he does. Y'all see that smile? You see that smile? Right? Because the thing of it is that it is the same process, whether it is your grandchildren, your children, or your woman. Now, what I would like to share with you, and one of the reasons that I wound up at the Francisco homes was talking about intimate relationships with men who were formerly serving life sentences. Why? Because they don't know how to do relationships. How were you supposed to know how to do an adult relationship when you went to prison, started going to jail at 18? You don't know nothing about nothing. You don't even know how. Ooh, y'all almost got me to say something really, really bad. Right. But my mouth, right? Right. Well, okay. You don't even know how your dick works, and then, but yet, and still, somebody expecting you to know how to come out after you've been incarcerated, where it was not in your best interest to learn how to emote and feel and. That was like detrimental. Right. So now somebody expecting you to come out at 40-some years old, all of a sudden, and know how to do that. You're not supposed to know how to do that. You're not supposed to know how to date because you never got to date. Whatever sex you might have got before you went in, trust me, it was nothing. Teenage sex. It was teenage sex. It don't even count.
Barmaid
sex. This one here was the barmaid, and not the redheads no more. You had to swear off them because they was crazy. So look. That's the story he told me. He always said the redheads was crazy.
I'm telling you, that's the damn truth.
Look, you see his face? He gets serious as a heart attack when he tell you that.
They're hellacious lovers, but when they get mad, Lord help yourself.
Now, of course, it didn't have nothing to do with him why they was mad.
What matter?
It didn't matter, but they were mad.
But
that's what I would say to you. Like, the question you need to answer for yourself is, do you want it to be different? Because listen, right now you have this focus.
He wouldn't have wrote a book if he didn't want things to matter.
I agree with that too. He wanted to tell the story he wants. That's that legacy he's talking about, though. Leaving something other than the legacy he had about what he wrote about. Right. But the thing of it is, the question is the personal legacy, the legacy of having love. See, I can tell you this. I've had my heart broken multiple times. But I would still rather be in love than not. Okay? And this is the thing. Again, you didn't have an opportunity to learn how to do those things. So the reason that you're not good at dating is not because you're hard at heart. It's because of the life that you've lived for 25 years. It is habitual, and you can overcome it only if you want to, though. And I'm not even trying to suggest to this man, that in any way, shape, or form that you should.
Well,
I'm just saying if you want to.
I don't know if I don't. I always
You're capable.
say.
Don't you tell me you don't know if you can.
With regards now, ironically, I just got 2 grandkids, 3 and 4.
Okay.
So.
That's awesome.
And I'm trying to
open that up.
See how to do that. Like I still don't know how to call. I still don't know how to reach out yet. You know, like so that's what I'm working on now. And I haven't
mastered it.
I haven't mastered it at all yet.
Okay, but guess what? But guess what?
But I plan to spend time with them.
Yep.
You know, and see how.
So guess what? I'm gonna come right to. So guess what? This is a practical tip. Take your phone when you get home, and you schedule an appointment in your phone to call your grandkids.
Make a reminder.
You set a reminder. You set it like you scheduled to come here today, and you communicated with me to come here today. Well, what I'm suggesting is schedule to talk to your grandkids.
Right.
Even if you get into a relationship with a woman, schedule to make a phone call. And these are practical steps you can take that actually help to get you there. And then, believe it or not, yes, even you can learn how. Even you. It's hard nut to crack.
But what happens when they go back?
Well, what happens when you don't live up to it?
It's all good.
When it's good.
It's all good.
When it's good.
Until it's all bad.
Until it's not.
Now, me, I like to just keep it all good because when it go bad,
it's bad.
I don't know how to do it. All I know is go. Like go.
Okay.
I'm not a violent person. I don't like to argue.
Just disappear.
But
it's just done.
So in that regard, I don't know how to do that. So the best advice to deal with me would be let's keep it all good because.
Well, and listen, and you can do that, but there's a way to do that.
Because it ain't all bad, it's going to be all bad.
There's a way to do that, and listen, when you, again, it's simple things, there are simple tools that you can use. When you say, once you identify, if you tell me what you just said, I don't know how to do the keeping in touch. I can give you a way, I can show you how you do that so that then you can move forward. And this is for anybody listening. If your problem is you're not keeping up with your family members, and you're not able, then put a reminder in your phone. None of us can function without a phone today, right? We can't even get down. People hate it. I see, right?
I can.
Okay. No, but you still got one because I call you on the phone.
Yeah.
Right? So if, for example, you don't know how to show your feelings, I doubt that seriously because you write. If you cannot have a communication verbally with somebody, you write it. Because you know how to write.
Yeah, I know how to write.
Clearly, you know how to write.
And then you got it.
Right?
You know.
But see, this is again why I wanted to have this group because literally, okay, let's talk about your curriculum. You develop curriculum for inside the institutions.
Yeah.
And listen, you so caring, you don't even know. Look, this is my big caring teddy bear, y'all. Because look, because you know what? Because seriously, if you took the time to do this to help people incarcerated, it's because you care. And this brilliant lady here figured that out. But that's because she's brilliant and you know, all her time in prison and no understanding and is able to help. But please, let's talk about this.
Well, I run a curriculum inside prison, which we have over 400 participants from Pelican Bay to Ironwood. And this is my 9-course curriculum in which
Affiliates and Offenders Recovery Program.
Yes, and this is called Lifestyle Addiction Curriculum, in which we address the causative factors of our gang and criminal beginnings. Like what was happening in your life, what made you, decide to join the gang. Why do you hate your enemies? Because these are things that I had to come to be able to get myself out of the anger and hate that I felt. Ironically, I also once our inmates get past this curriculum right here, then depending on their work that they will be offered what's called our Inside Community Ambassadors Program.
Okay.
Now, our Inside Community Ambassador Program are ambassadors that have completed the program. They facilitate what I made up, which is a lifestyle addiction support group for gang and criminal. So pretty much like AANA, we go off of the CGA 12 steps, but it's a little more direct and deals with the direct hate and the things that's going on in the community, in which their participants receive certificates and support letters, and as well as my facilitators.
Yeah, but they also have hate.
And emotional awareness course. Just like this. They're just like this one, but you know, just based on what I'm feeling here. Like my no feelings. I put my no feelings into context to send to them in the hopes that they can address their emotional awarenesses before they get here.
Right, before they get to the place that you are. In other words,
here,
they can stop.
They can
stop the train moving toward non-feeling and not being able to identify before they get there, based on the experience that you took.
I'm experiencing, yes.
And what you're experiencing. And these are the things again that indicate to me that you're a very caring person, and that you have a lot of feelings, and that you have walled around certain things. Certain areas, certain aspects, you walled around it so as not to deal with those things, and you could go right ahead and say, but you definitely are a caring person.
Oh no, Reg, just what you're saying, Noreen. You built a wall there. That's all that is. You didn't build a wall, knock that stuff down. And that's what I always tell the girls, just do it. As far as your grandkids, just do it. Pick them up and hug them and let them love you. And then once the child touches you, that's when you understand real love. Is when they just love you. They don't know you. But when they just hug you and say, "Granddad," and kiss you, your heart gonna melt.
And listen, because this one here has the cutest little girl you ever want to see in the entire world. And when I first met him, and his birthday came up not long after that, and I asked him, "What are you gonna do for your birthday?" He said, "The only thing I'm doing is my little girl wanted to have a tea party with her dad." And they set out, okay, I'm not gonna cry. They set out, and he sent me a picture of them having a tea party. And I'm saying to you that I'm a grandmother. I never wanted to be a grandmother. I could have cared less. It never did care. I didn't care if I had kids. I think having kids is overrated, but that's another story. We'll talk about that another time. But now that I'm a grandmother, I have every woman that I've ever met that was a grandmother told me it's a different kind of love than you have for your children. It's way different, right? I believed it based on the number of people that told me that, but I couldn't say that I knew what that was.
That means you can spoil it.
Well, I already figured that part out, right? But I can tell you that there is something different about the kind of love that I feel for my granddaughter. When I hear her voice or when I see her face, everything in the world is okay. And it's a kind of feeling I cannot describe. I cannot tell you why that is. So I'm telling you, that's one of your places to go.
Yeah,
well, it's to the grandkids, right?
I plan to.
Because they are going to, you will feel a love for them that will, and it'll help you to melt some of that wall. We're going to call that your ice wall. And those grandbabies will help you to melt down that ice wall. And I will say this.
I didn't get to know my kids.
Right, and now they're grown, right?
Yeah.
And so now you have to have a different relationship with them but now you get the opportunity to have that relationship with your grandkids.
Right.
And I say to you that it's all still there. You just have to break beyond it. But the first thing is you have to decide that that's what you want to do. Right. The same way that you had decided you wanted to write this book, that you wanted to do this curriculum, that you want to help the park over there, that you want to help people in your community, you have to make a decision that you want to make that different for yourself. Because, see, I believe wholeheartedly that was a survival mechanism, particularly because you spent so much time in solitary. To survive that, I understand. I think it was you who talked about the fact that you could take the hardest dude on the yard and put him in solitary, and all of a sudden he's in there blubbering and acting crazy,
hang yourself,
and trying to hang himself.
Yeah.
So we know, and they know that these things affect people, and I believe it was how you taught yourself to survive was to wall those things off. But I'm saying to you that if you decide the same way you decided to do these things, you can decide, and I believe you can do anything you want because you survived all of that.
And you know why I agree with that? Because I spent 8 years in the military, 3 combat terms, and when you see death up close, the way the military creates death is one thing. I spent 15 years on the streets here in LA, watching people die every single day. Went back to the Middle East, serving my country as a private contractor. I just decided one day I didn't want to do that anymore. So now I do media.
Right.
I have the softest skill in the world. I'm a keyboard gangster. Literally, I don't fuck with anything that has to do with violence anymore. She'll tell you, anytime she calls me, the one voice she hears in the back of the phone, I choose not to engage myself in it. Now, I'm like him, though. If shit starts to go sideways, I'm going to meet you in the middle.
Right.
Do I want to do that? No. Can I do that? Yeah. I choose not to. And I'll be in certain situations where a motherfucker will walk up and I'm like, I think about my daughter. Yeah. First thing I do is I'm like, you know what? I'm not leaving the script that way. Yeah. I'm going to go home. You know, so when I listen to you talk, to say that you don't feel anything, I don't believe that. Because just the fact that you can do all of this requires forethought. It requires you being able to feel and connect with the part of you that can do that. I think your persona, you kind of like it because it's kind of gangster. But I think the other part of you is here, and you're trying to figure out how can you mesh the two of them. I choose to mesh the two of them by saying, look, I can do those things, but I choose not to do those things. My dad told me that's the mark of a man. You can choose to do something, and if you choose to do the good part of you, you're a man. If you choose to do the bad part of you, you're no better than an animal. So every single time I choose not to get in a fight or an argument or you know, do whatever, I'm a man.
Well, I can tell you this much.
And you definitely are, because
because I can do that. I can easily go back to that. I can easily go back to that. It's always right there, you know. But I try. I like to use the analysis of 2 + 2 is 4. If you let somebody tell you it's 5, that's on you. So I know that if I go back to this or support what I know, then I'm knowing the possibility of me being back in the cage. I really don't want to see my people go through that, have to go through that, you know, to be able to see something there that's not seen here. Like a lot of men, that's where my heart is. My heart is the generation. Like I don't, you know. So if I choose to jump out there, and if something catches me like that, then I might be open to that. Like I can choose to do that if I want to do that. But the desire that I have, you know, to get where it is that I want to see, you know, it just, for me, it just not logical for me to do that right now, because I'm not gonna be 100% to nobody other than what my mission is.
So you're saying, in other words, for you to be in an intimate relationship right now would be challenging because you're focused on other things right now.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me, and I will tell you.
And the thing you have to do is resist the urge when you get upset. That's when you don't walk away from it. The only way you're going to break through it is when you're in it. Now that's when the conscious you is like, you know what, I'm in it.
That's when you go back.
I recognize I'm in it. I'm staying here. I'm gonna fix it right now. Right, because the second you walk away, you just put yourself back where you were when you first came across that set of feelings, and you just retreat.
Right.
I don't see you as the kind of person that runs away from adversity. Right. Don't retreat.
No. And a lot of people do, and a lot of people do simply just walk away. My ex simply would just disappear. he would just disappear. He, like you, I don't like to argue, so he just disappeared. But for me, thankfully, I was more mature and I had some understanding. So what I was able to do was I was able to maintain the love. I didn't allow him to do things that would hurt me, so that I was able to maintain the love. But that's because I was much older than him and had an enlightenment and had a spiritual understanding that allowed me to do that. But you wanted to say something.
I want to say that, first of all, I'm just really adamant about the fact that us coming out of incarceration after a lot of years, we should not be in personal relationships.
Not early. Not early.
We learn. You 18 years old, you need to learn what it's like on this side. You don't know what you like over here. You know what prison was. And so you come out here, you get attached, you start, oh, why you didn't call me? And you're so needy, and you can't. So I tell people to get to know your own self out here first. You ain't even been on the street a long time. Get to know yourself. This is a whole different world than what you left. So you got to say, oh, you know, ooh, I didn't know I liked this. And go places with yourself. Go places you free.
I mean, that's what I do, because me, I've had to become my best friend.
I didn't say by yourself. I said with yourself.
I said with myself. I am with myself. Right.
What you talking about by yourself? You still trying to keep yourself separate.
She not letting you off the hook. And it's awesome. But see, this is why it's necessary for people who have been incarcerated to speak to people who have been incarcerated. You tapped into something, again, as good a facilitator as I am, I wouldn't have tapped into it had you not said it, and it opens up so many things. And this is, again, why I feel like this support group is really awesome for the people that need it, because there are things that you can share with each other. There are going to be things, for example, there are people who want to write a book that don't know how, that you can share with them.
Right.
There are things that you did to get that curriculum to be taught inside of the prison that people don't know how to do that. How do you do that? You can share that with them. There are things you're on your own at this point, on your own 2 feet, right? You said that you had somebody, your third wife helped you through some of that and helped you young, never learned. And there's a shame oftentimes associated with not knowing, feeling like I'm a grown-up, but I don't even know how to go take care of my bills, or who do I call to get the gas cut on, or you know, how do I even pay the bills? There are things, there's shame associated with that, but there shouldn't be shame. And that's one of the reasons it was vital to me to make sure that people who can't come here right now get to hear this information. Because people need to know there's no shame and you're not alone. All you got to do is ask for help. All you got to do is ask.
You know, I used to have so much trouble, like you're talking about shame, because I can't read. And get a job when I was younger, I had to take the forms to somebody in my family to fill out. And I got hit by a car when I was little, and it screwed up something in my brain. But now, it doesn't bother me. You know, if I went in the store today and I needed some cottage cheese, right? And they got, I know what a cottage cheese is, but they got 3 or 4 different. So I stopped some lady, never knew her, and I said, excuse me, I can't read. Can you tell me which one of these are cottage cheese?
And I bet you she told you, didn't she?
Yeah, and I bought it too, you know.
The most disgusting food ever is cottage cheese. But I want to say this. I want to say this about that. People don't want to be vulnerable.
You don't want somebody, I don't want to feel that because I can't read that you can put me down. Because when I was a kid and a young man, that's why I was crazy as shit. That's what screwed my life up. Always feeling like somebody's putting you down. But now that I'm old and ready to, you know, I don't really give a rat's.
Well, and that's the one beauty of getting older. But what I will say is this. I want everybody to understand this. This is something that I discovered, is that we don't want to be exposed in our vulnerable spots, the things that we perceive to be weaknesses about ourselves. But I will tell you this, when you do that, somebody can help you. When we're trying to cover them up, nobody can help you. People know when you're lying. I'll give you an example. If I run into you in the street, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. And in reality, I'm not fine.
Right.
I'm miserable today.
Right.
I'm hurting today. Right? Today I'm in the midst of work and everything's crazy. I get a text message. Childhood friend of mine who was killed in a car accident, left a son. The son grows up, raised by the aunts. He sets a fire accidentally, kills his aunt that raised him. Got a text message today from her other sister that he was found dead today on a bus stop. So the tragedy, so in other words, I might just say, you would say, how you doing? And I would just say, oh, I'm okay, but really I'm broke up inside behind this. But if I were to say to you, you know what, I found out that my friend's son was found dead today, and I'm upset about that. Right. You're going to respond to me differently. The other thing is, and you may love on me verbally, right? Because you know that I need some tender love and care. I might need tender words at this particular moment. But when I say, oh, I'm okay, first of all, you know I'm lying.
How many people you stand in line? This is since I got out, right? You be in line and somebody be staring at you, right? And you, instead of saying, you know, screw you, dude, you say, good morning, how you doing? Mm-hmm. And
it changes.
Their face will change because
the dynamic.
Because they're not thinking of me as somebody wants to hurt them or do something to them.
Right.
And it's just that simple.
Yes.
And you know what? I say hello probably to 100 people a day because it makes me feel good.
Yeah. And that is that's what's important. So I want to, I want to say this. I want to ask you: Are there any things that you would like to share with people about coming home? Anything that you think was really helpful for you to help you to reintegrate?
Well, address your issues before you come home. A lot of things are changing. My advice is to address your issues. If you got hate issues, you need to address them. If you got emotional issues, you need to address them. If you got relationship issues, you need to address them before you get here. Don't think that you can get here and think that you can change once you're here. So I will take advantage of the programs that's offered, and once you get here, get some support to help you be able to navigate and stand down for at least a year to learn everything. Like, that's what I did. I stood down my first year out. I stood down the whole year learning how to live before I went back into my community.
Awesome.
Janet wouldn't let me come and see her, my own sister, right? Mm-hmm. Never did a damn thing to him because, like I said, family was safe. She wouldn't let me come to her house for almost 2 years because she was afraid how I had changed because I was in prison so long. And then finally my other sister told her on the phone, she says, has Bobby ever hurt you? Has he ever done anything to... And she said, no. She said, then why the hell do you think he will now? And then she finally says, I'm still a garage, brother. I can't go in the house because you got guns. But I go out there maybe once a month or something. And we sit in the garage and talk and, you know.
And that's progress. And that is progress from what it was, right? And so every step is a step in the right direction. And so I want to also give you an opportunity. How can people get your book?
Oh, you can get the book on Amazon.com now. You know, Amazon KDP is there now. You can also get the book through my website at affiliates and offenders recovery program.com. You can also order these programs for your incarcerated loved ones at affiliates and offenders recovery program.com, or you can reach me on social media at Bernard K. Cooper, or on IG at Bernard K. Cooper, or at the Lonesome Dove.
So, and those things are important. And I ask you to comment, ask questions. Are there any last comments from you? No. How about you, sir?
No.
Everything's great. I just want to thank everybody for being here. This is totally
you see
awesome.
She passed me, right?
Because you just said something. Do you, sir?
No, I said he got a lot of
and don't be sticking your tongue out at me when I ask you this. Is there anything you would like to say? Any last comments you need to check out?
No, I'm glad that your life come out, dude. Really.
Thank you.
I enjoy people who make it.
Hallelujah.
I was in Francisco Homes.
I was in there.
Okay, so I see guys come in, and the first thing, Sister Teresa, thank you very much. I love you. You got a place for me. And 2 months later, I got to give that bitch $500 to stay here on the couch. And I'm thinking, where you gonna stay anywhere
for $500?
Yeah, for $500.
Right? Nowhere.
Right.
Nowhere.
You know.
And also, in addition to that, not only that, you have to pay her so that she can run the houses, because she doesn't take money from the Department of Corrections and doesn't run it like a little mini prison.
Yep. No.
So she allows you to actually reintegrate.
You're
to
free.
begin, you're actually free
Different
in those homes
from
some of the other,
from all the
all the other ones.
and that's contracted
the
with CDCR.
Exactly. And
CDCR run them.
Exactly, and so it's run the same way. So it is a blessing that she runs it the way that she does. And I just want to shout out, big ups, Sister Teresa from Francisco Homes.
Yeah, Sister Teresa helped me too.
Yes.
She helped me. Yeah, that's one of the people who helped me. And Mary Sean, from the prep. Yeah, they were significant and helped me come on.
And I just encourage people, get the help that you need. I want to thank you guys for being with us. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends to subscribe, share the videos, and we'll see you next week.
Amen.
Thank you.